Hi guys, and welcome to the final part of the three-part video series where I dissect a decision of the National Industrial Court on the channel. Now, the case I was talking about was Captain Benedict Olusoji against the Nigerian Army and three others, where I talked about in two other videos were quite lengthy. Thank you for the engagement on those videos so far, and I didn't know I was going to be able to do this, but thank you guys. It's been heartwarming to see the responses both online and then offline. A lot of my subscribers are very shy. They don't want to leave comments on the channel page, which is fine by me too. So I'm going to be talking about the final part of this matter. Permit me to read through some of them. So as a background, I talked about Captain Benedict Olusoji, who was wrongfully terminated from his employment with the Nigerian Army, got judgment from the National Industrial Court of Nigeria in the sum of 75 million as damages against them. The Nigerian Army goes on appeal to say that, pending when the appeal is decided, we are not obligated to pay the judgment creditor in this case. And then there was a garnishee order, and then we spoke about a few things on why the garnishee applicant, which is CBN at the time, claimed that because of a government agency, the judgment creditor needed to seek consent from the Attorney General before initiation of. So there was a bit of back and forth. If you've not watched the second video, watch it and then you'll get the gist of what I'm saying. So this final one is where the case was actually decided regarding the garnishee order. So the players, like I spoke about, there's a judgment creditor, the person who won the original lawsuit and is seeking to collect judgment. The judgment creditor who lost the suit, a Nigerian Army, and owes money to the judgment creditor, and then the garnishee, in this case usually a third party, usually a bank that holds money belonging to the judgment debtor, and in this matter it was Central Bank of Nigeria. They still came on to say, okay, they argued that only the Federal High Court, not the Industrial High Court, National Industrial Court, had jurisdiction over the case because they are an agency of the federal government, and that they lacked the required consent of the Attorney General to initiate the procedure. Then they came on to say, they claim that the judgment creditor in this case, Captain Benedict Olusoji, acting through his lawyers obviously, they claim that he required the consent of the Attorney General of the Federation, and they also required the consent of the Attorney General of the Federation before they could comply with the garnishee order. And now, while all this back and forth is going on, there's a part of you that is thinking, can't you just pay this money? Especially because interest is going to accrue for the number of days this keeps dragging on. And that's what most people don't quite understand. I would rather get a judgment against a company I'm representing as a consultant and get it paid out than have to go through the legal gamut of taking this in on appeal, and then finally you end up paying this person plus interest for the time wasted in the court's time. And I don't want to get into all those nuances. Doesn't mean you shouldn't consult a lawyer tomorrow or today. But you get the gist of where I'm going. Then having to do that, and then you pay the interest plus the 75 million naira. So these were the two things that they said, okay, fine. Apart from you requiring a consent to actually do it, we also require consent from the Attorney General before we can comply with the order, which was a very interesting twist to this case. Now, the court responded by saying, we disagree with your argument as the garnishee applicants, which in the case was CBN, only because, number one, while we're acknowledging that you're a federal agency, we would like to let you know that, number one, the Constitution grants us all the powers of a High Court, which is also something that the Federal High Court will have. Secondly, the judgment enforcement rules allows enforcement of judgments in the courts that issued them. So we issued the judgment to Captain Benedict Olusoji. I want to believe that we have a law backing our enforcement of said judgment, regardless of whether you've appealed to the Court of Appeal. Okay? And then third, but most importantly, there's a specific provision in the National Industrial Court Act that allows us to enforce our own judgments. So this is not the same as even the judgment enforcement rules that allows the court that issued judgment to enforce those judgments. It allows us to enforce our judgments. And then the fact that you were saying, oh, your status as a public officer in a government agency does not necessarily require the Attorney General's consent in garnishee proceedings. Now, one can argue and be like, it's stated there, it's clear as day. It might be in an act, it might even be in a circular. But in this particular instance, because it is bordering on an employment dispute, we don't think, okay, that you need the consent of the Attorney General to comply with this order to enforce this judgment. And that they were being sued as the judgment debtor's banker, which falls under the scope of requiring consent. Now you see where I said they said they needed consent to comply with the order. Oh, the judgment creditor, in this case Captain Olusoji, needed consent to get his judgment executed. Executed means payment of the money, a sum of 75 million, which was the damages from my first video that I talked about. But the court is saying, we are suing you as their banker. We are not suing you as an agency. There's a difference. Central Bank is housing the monies for this judgment debtor, which in this case is Nigerian Army. So pay up, essentially. So what the court did was they dismissed the garnishee's arguments and objection and then upheld his authority to enforce its own judgments through the garnishee order. Essentially, let's stop joking around. Like Gen Z will say, don't play. Pay this person the 75 million naira owed to him. An appeal does not automatically stay the execution because you are trying to say, oh, you're a government agency and blah blah blah. You don't require consent. You are a banker in this case. Pay the creditor his money. Now, the first question I'm going to ask, do you think this judgment was fair? Let's leave the legalese and all this thing I've been saying in all my videos. Do you really think, looking at me as a HR professional, like, nah, the court did not try, they didn't do what they were supposed to do, we felt that they were unfair, they were leaning towards a particular side? And let me know in the comment section. Secondly, should there be a special rule for garnishing funds from government agencies? Like, did you have, apart from obviously the requirement of consent of an Attorney General to garnish funds for whatever reason from a government agency, do you think that there should be a certain rule that, okay, that protects them from matters like this, even though it's now established as case law? And then third, but most importantly, what do you think this case means for future garnishee proceedings in employment disputes? Because as much as possible, I don't also want to feel like I just talk about things on the channel and I don't give you an assignment. So it's been an interesting time talking about Captain Benedict Olusoji and the Nigerian Army and 3 others. But these are the 3 questions I ask myself. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section and come back for more by subscribing to the channel. Like, share, comment. We like to keep it very interactive here, and I can be found on all social media platforms. If you need to join me to talk about a matter that's pertaining to HR and its intersection with law, you know what to do. Until I come again with another 3-part or 4-part, or even if it's a 1-part or 2-part video discussing another decision of the National Industrial Court, let me know. I'm going to put up a poll shortly on my LinkedIn channel and I think across social media to just get the vibe of what people thought about my addressing and talking about these decisions. But till I come your way next time, stay safe, guys.